Good morning, everyone. Today is the first day of the summer, according to our lunar calendar. Yesterday is the marking, we call it like the 5th month and the 5th days in the lunar calendar, and actually that marks the beginning of the summer. So after yesterday means starting from today and later on, we are going to be get that hotter and hotter weather. Okay. So enjoy the summer. We have a lot of work going on at Mava. We also harvest a lot veggies. Master has been very diligent in growing the veggies. So I hope you enjoy the dishes later. Okay. So I saw that we have some new faces and then we also have some old friends. So today I would like to share with you about the wisdoms of emptiness, or we call it by reference to the Heart Sutras. Okay, I think because everyone here quite familiar with Heart Sutras, because we have the Heart Sutras in our chanting at Maba. And so this actually related to my previous talks on the Bodhisattvas and especially on the Guanyin Bodhisattvas. Okay, so Guanyin Bodhisattvas is well known for his or her compassion, great compassion. But what makes a Bodhisattva to be so compassionate and has such a different skills? Okay, very well versed in skillful means in helping people, because there is something that make the Bodhisattvas difference and that help them to be perseverance and tolerance in walking the path. Because of what? Because of the wisdom. Okay. So when we chant the Heart Sutra, it begins like this. The Bodhisattvas, Avalokitesvara, were deeply immersed in Prajna Paramita. So from this first sentence, we see what? Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. Okay. Avalokitesvara representing compassion, great compassion. Avalokitesvara means contemplations. Contemplations through the sounds, observing the sentient beings, sounds and cries. Okay. And merge with the contemplations of the wisdom. So prajna here, we usually translate it into English as transcendental wisdoms. Okay. So let's look at here. First, we need to come back to the very original purpose in Buddhism before we talk about wisdom. So what is the purpose of practice, the Buddhist practice? Maybe many of you come to Buddhism because you want the meditation practice, okay? Or because you have friends here, they give you a lot of fun, a lot of joy, or the meditation help you to get a sense of peace or serenity for temporary. But what really makes Buddhism different actually is the wisdom. Okay, we said that only through wisdoms, then we can really uproot the root cause of the sufferings, the root cause of your anxieties, worries, pains, limitations. Okay, and only after we are able to free from all these defilements, then at the same time can attain the enlighten of what? Enlighten of all the causes and conditions that cause the sufferings and lead us to the freedom, free from the sufferings, okay? And at the same time, also able to help others. So here I said, it's only true we transform. First we have to recognize the defilements, okay? This is our defilements. To transform it into purity means free from all these defilements, the greed, ignorance, ill wills, okay? And this is, we call it not knowing what are the causes and conditions for ignorance, we call that ignorance. But if after we have learned all this, see it, know it by ourselves, then we say we have this wisdom. Okay, so wisdom has to be through cultivation by ourselves. And in this process, the wisdom or transcendental wisdom is the key feature, and it also marks the difference in Buddhism compared to other practice. Actually, if you come here because you want meditation, you can see that you can also learn meditation in other traditions, right? In other religions. But what makes meditation in Buddhism different is because it incorporates with the wisdom. And here we call it the wisdoms of emptiness or the wisdoms of no self, okay? So this is how people come to Buddhism and say that our goal should be like the Buddha, the one who has perfectly enlightened, self-enlightened, okay? And this can be achieved by all people, all ordinary people. So the Buddha laid out this pathway for ordinary people to continue to walk, practice, cultivate, and transform themselves into the so-called the fully enlightened one that is like the Buddha. All right. So what is prajna? Okay, what is transcendental wisdom? You might hear all these terms, okay? You hear emptiness, you hear middle way, non-self, dependent origination, dependent co-arising, impermanence, and so on and so on. So what are they? What do they mean really? Are they different or what is it? So today I would like to go back to the basic. Okay, let us revise all this basic terminology so that we have some idea about what all this about. Okay. By the way, I want to point out that when we talk about middle way is the only way. So middle way, actually middle in its original meaning has the meaning of the right way. Right means as it is, as they are, not as I wish. I think people have a common misunderstanding thinking that middle way means I stay in the middle, okay? I'm not too extreme to this and not too extreme to that. So my life is just neutral, okay? No emotion and no making any judgment. So I am on the middle way. But that is not necessary in that way. Why? I think this is also because we do not know how to understand, we do not know all these, the real causes and conditions. So maybe we can pretend, okay, and thought that we are living a neutral life, that is the middle way, but without knowing the cause, that is not the middle, the right understanding. That is a very deep, very deep teaching and observation here. Okay, let's begin here. So all the sutras, many sutras, first explain what is prajna, okay? Or what is this transcendental wisdom? I just cited from the Chen Wei Salun, okay? So it says wisdom has the functions to discern and distinguish the object of contemplations. And it has the functions to eliminate doubts, okay? So this is also part of the purpose when we come to practice. In the meditations, we have the concentration cooperates with the so-called contemplations, observation, inner observations. So sitting, not just sitting still and doing nothing. We just want to settle, clear up all this discursive thinking, let the mind stable, focus, so that it has the ability to discern, to distinguish things as they are. Whatever we contact, we know them as they are. This is the functions of wisdom. And it will help to clear up all the doubts, uncertainties, okay? If your mind still have doubts, if your mind still thinking of other options, maybe I have other alternatives, maybe this is not the right way, this is called doubt, okay? Then we don't have the root in the wisdom yet. Okay, let's move on then. So prajna actually is the fruit of our realization. It is not supposed just like a theory for discussion. We have to realize it. The moment we realize, truly realize that wisdom, we call that prajna, okay? So how to observation? Through the contemplation, when we observe, then we can see that everything has its causes and conditions. And when the more we penetrate into this network of causes and conditions, we see that every little things connect to each other, every little things influence each other. The moment this arises, it becomes a new cause to the next, and the next one gives rise to the next. So we can see that when we are sitting here in our meditation just now, okay, you can see that, is it still? Is it like still as one line? Maybe there are many other fluctuations. Your body might influence by the light, by the airflow, by the humidity, by the sound, or even your body sitting still. The mind have a lot going on. Okay, maybe you have something worried about, maybe you have some planning after this. All this will influence, impact, or affect your stability of the mind. So you can see that each thought it affect the next thought. Next thought affect your next action, and so on and so on. So during this whole flow of changing cause and effect, there is no one thing called freedom. Nothing is independent from the rest. So in this whole process, we see that nothing is impermanent, nothing is separated from others. We thus call it no self. If we are able to accept this kind of wisdom, then we say this is the wisdom of no self. Okay, and that's why we also call it the right contemplation, the right observation. That is the middle way. Sometimes, because these kind of observations can be very broad and profound. So very often in the sutras or the commentaries also explain that prajna paramita is so broad and so profound. Well, so what does it mean? Okay, I will come to that next. Okay, so let's focus on this. I already continued to mention just now. If for the meditations, what's the functions of meditation? It's really to train the mind. Okay, we used to so focus on external. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, always go outside, never come back. So coming and sitting is really just turn all your attention back into this body and the mind, and not to be disturbed by all the external. Only if the mind or the awareness are so able to stay focused on this body and the mind and not disturbed by the others, then we say that we have a concentrated mind. But that is not enough, okay? Once the mind is stable and concentrated, then it enables to really see it as it is, not think as it is. What it means by see how the mind and the body functions, okay? So that's why in this process of learning, the teachers need to teach you, okay, what are the 5 aggregates, what are the 6 senses, and by knowing the interconnectedness between the body and the mind, then we see that even the body and the mind are also subject to no self. Okay, I think so. The more we can observe and truly accept this body is no self, then we can just follow the body. I give one example. When we are sitting observing the breathing, can we control the breathing? No, we just observe the breathing, right? And we follow the breathing. So breathing is a natural thing happen to the body. So all we need to do is follow and observe it. But you can see that most of the time we observe some and then we lost some. So the concentration is not stable. If we can accept that most of the time we just follow the body. When the body hungry, we have to feed the body. Body tired, then rest. We cannot control the breathing. We cannot control when we get hungry, when we get sick, when we will die. But we just follow the conditions. So this kind of observation, and eventually we can break through this kind of thinking that I can control my body, I can control my mind, but just go with it, then this is the wisdom of no self. Penetrate, break through the self-will and the self-clinging. And if it extends this kind of wisdom to other people, to other phenomena, and we will see the same thing. Okay, we will observe the similar saying that yes, it's not only this body and mind are empty, no self, but all others is the same. Okay, and if we are able to see and penetrate and see that all things, all beings are also subject to no self, subject to changes, then we say wisdom of emptiness arise, or you attain the wisdom of emptiness. And that is the perfections of wisdom. And so far, only the Buddha is the one who can perfectly cultivate or attain this kind of wisdom. So Buddha is our examples. We always take Buddha as our teachers, and Buddha is our example, perfect example, and we want to be like the Buddha. So Buddha is not for us to worship and bow, but Buddha is the teachers that we need to learn from and to be as perfect as him. Okay, so this is the difference between wisdom of no self and wisdom of emptiness. Emptiness is much more broad and profound, but essentially they are the same. Before I continue, I want to talk a bit about what is the meaning of self. Okay, self, maybe you think that self means I am. If I don't call myself I am, then I have no self. But actually, self, the meaning of self has the meaning that independent, autonomy, or dominance. But the more we observe and contemplate, we can see that nothing is truly independent. Nothing is truly autonomy, and nothing can be truly dominant over the others. Then we let go of this kind of concept of self, okay? Because everything is truly dependent on others, okay? And nothing can control over others. So if any wisdom, okay, in the world, we call it the mundane wisdom. We have the smart leaders in the world, okay, no matter how smart they are, as long as they have this self-will, clinging to their own self, thinking that they can control others, then we call this the mundane wisdom. Only if those have let go, truly let go of the no self, then we say that is the transcendental wisdom. Okay, so what is the meaning of broad and profound then? Profound means not only contemplate on the superficial level, but penetrate deeply into the consciousness and see that, because consciousness is like the self-ego deeply inside the mind, okay? So as if like you need to dig through into the center of the earth. So this self is deeply rooted deep inside the consciousness. This is how and why we need to practice in order to cut through it in the mind, okay? This is not only this mind, and we also see that broad, the so-called bodhisattva, the great beings, they can extend this wisdom to observe all other beings, understand their characteristics, understand their personalities. Every beings, every people, you have your own causes and conditions to grow up, to live. That makes everyone unique at the same time. We have some common grounds, okay? We all have the body and the mind, but every one of you have your own experience, right? That makes you different when we have some common share. Okay, so for those who accept that everything is empty of no self, and everything depends on causes and conditions, then we accept this is the law of the truth, okay, the truth of the nature, and this is the contents of the wisdoms of emptiness. So the sutra also said that, okay, for those who are able to understand the dependent originations, then you understand the wisdoms of emptiness. It has a very famous verses called, because this exists, that comes to be. Because that arises, this arises. And the Buddha reminds his assistant Ananda, saying that don't think that this is easy to understand, because this is a very profound matter. And this is the dependent origination. So here I want to introduce a very famous in a very important sutra here. We call it the Buddha Discourse on the Mahayana Sutra of the Right Thoughts. So this sutra, what makes it so unique, it marks the turning point from the period of the early teachings of the Buddha, entering the period of the Mahayana. So in this sutra, it says that whoever sees dependent originations sees the Dharma. Whoever sees the Dharma is able to see the Buddha. So in order to see the Buddha, we have to understand the wisdom of the Buddha. Okay, so let's move on here. But a common misunderstanding among people here is that we always thought that wisdom of emptiness means empty, voidness. We have to detach everything, okay, let go of everything because it is empty, it's no worthy. And if we attach to it, then we are subject to sufferings, okay? But that is not really that case. Before we really know the wisdom of emptiness, then it has to be realized in the reality based on the conventional truth, okay? Without understanding the conventional truth, we will not understand what is the true meaning of emptiness. So actually, in the sutras or in the scriptures, the Buddhas and the Master also taught us that first we need to know to discern what is right and wrong. Okay, then we can eliminate the wrong and cultivate the right. We need to put in effort to cultivate the right, and eventually, after we realize it, then we can follow it, the natural truth, without any efforts and without the need to cling to the wholesome. So the first two stages are the conventional truth that we need to know first. And this is the proof of the sutras, okay, in the scriptures. It says that first we need to have the knowledge of the stability of the Dharma, that is the conventional knowledge. And then we can cultivate the knowledge of the Nirvana, that means the transcendental wisdom towards the liberation. In the sutra, in the commentary, the same. Without relying on the conventional truth, one cannot attain the ultimate truth. So what is conventional truth? Well, to put it simple, those are things that we know, the general facts that we understand, the knowledge. Okay. For examples, we know numbers, we know language, so we can communicate because we have the shared common languages, okay, and some rules. For example, measurements or certain everything that we can touch and know, those are the conventional truth. But in Buddhism, it has its own conventional truth as well. So it teaches people in the human world, okay, to understand how to understand the body and the mind, to understand the connections with others. So in Buddhism, we also teach 5 aggregates. We always teach 5 aggregates, 6 senses, what are the causes and conditions, wholesome, unwholesome, samsaras, defilements, and virtues, purities. All this belongs to the conventional knowledge. We need to learn all these. And also including the jhana, practicing the jhana. Okay, those are the knowledge about the forms realm. For those who are able to attain the jhanas, some of them able to cultivate supernatural powers. Those are also the wisdom and the knowledge in the conventional level, okay? As well as the formless realm. So if you think that you can attain jhana into form and formless realm and you are liberated, sorry, those are still subject to the conventional level. Okay, it is only based on all these levels, then we can go beyond it. So to put it simple way, okay, this is what makes the conventional and the transcendental difference. That is break through the self. Before we're able to break through the self, we always practice and learn with the self. Only break through the self, then we say that this is the noble ones. Then they can continue to learn and cultivate without the no self. They are the noble one, the transcendental one. And maybe because So what is your intention coming to practice? Okay, whether you said I want to free myself from all this stress that I have or sufferings that I have, we still have to follow this path. Okay, this is the sutra saying that, well, if you want to walk on this path, then you need to cultivate your virtues, train the mind in order to cultivate wisdom. If you say that I just want the meditation, I just want to train my mind so that it stay calm, it's just like the Buddha said that you need to drive this car in order to reach the destination. But then you say, I think I just need the car seat. It is very comfortable, okay? And I can just sit on this car seat and feel relaxed. I don't need the rest. You will never reach that goal. Okay, so if the Buddha offer us whole package, is like whole vehicle, we better follow the practice, accept the whole thing. Okay, if you think that sitting is very good, okay, but you don't want the rest, that means you just grab one part of it and let go of the rest. Okay, some others, after they listen and learn this, then they are so keen and compassionate to help others. Why? Because the wisdom of emptiness help us to kind of dissolve the barrier between I and others, seeing that I and others is the same. And that is why there is no thinking that I want to liberate first, I want to be happy first, I want to be peaceful first, because me and others merge together. Other sufferings is my sufferings. How can I stop and not to help? So automatically, naturally, those who are able to have the wisdom, understand the wisdom of emptiness, able to help, the compassion will grow naturally. That's why in the sutra that teach the Bodhisattva path, they always says that wisdom, compassion, and no attachments, the skillful means, they are the essence, the heart of the Bodhisattvas. And the sutra also, the teachings also say that if we only have compassion, no wisdom, then it's easy for us to attach to my results, attach to my success, attach to my views. But if only with wisdom and no compassion, then leads to the path of the lesser vehicle. So wisdom, compassion, skillful means are the hearts. Again, they are the hearts of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. If we want to understand what the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas practice and how they live their life, then we better to understand all these, what are the wisdom, compassion, and skillful means. And the sutra also said that, is, how to say, the theories, the wisdom of emptiness, you might able to realize it suddenly, but for the affliction, the defilement inside, it takes time. We need to gradually eliminate, polish it until exhaustion. So it might take you short time to read a book, but for practice, it might take more than one lifetime. And for that, we need to have the patience. We need to have other virtues along this journey. And I would like to share one saying by Master Shin. Master Shin, have you read Empty Clouds? I think his name also translated as Empty Cloud. So Master Shin says something like this. He said, the Buddha's word is like the illusionary flower in the empty space, yet it must be done at all times. The monastery is like the moon reflected on water, yet it must be built everywhere. So for the wise one, they no longer attached to anything, but they still need to work hard, not for themselves, but for others. Just like for them, monastery is empty, okay? It has no real meaning, solid for them, but we still need to maintain and earnestly run the monastery. Why? Because people need it, right? Before we enlighten, we still need something solid that brings us together. Just like we say, yeah, the world is illusionary, we should not attach to it. But it is just like the dream. But before we wake up, when we are still in the dream, we better have a good dream. You do not want to have a nightmare. Okay, even though you feel released after you wake up, but before we wake up, we don't want suffering. So before we break through the self-view or our self-attachments, we still depends on many other things that looks and sounds real to us. And so it's better to cultivate all these virtues one. All right, so how to apply the wisdom of emptiness? It sounds so profound, okay? It sounds so transcendental, but how can we apply it? So first of all, I would like to say that actually the wisdom first is like installing a new GPS system in the mind. Okay, so you need to have a reliable system as our navigation in order to reach the goal, the destination correctly in the shortest time. Okay, so to have the wisdom is like to have a good navigation system, and we need to continue to listen, contemplate, and cultivate in the daily life. For example, we have the wisdom, we have the knowledge in our mind, and based on this wisdom, we constantly reflect our behavior, our speech, and daily life, whether it's out of my desire or it's according to the truth, the need of others. Or be mindful, okay? Because everything has its causes, conditions, and effect. So to avoid all these, the so-called not so good consequences or sufferings, we better cultivate the wholesomeness, be mindful, avoid all these evil causes, and practice not just in the meditation hall. My teachers and the master said that if you want to cultivate for the real practice, go and serve the people, face the people through the interpersonal contact, then we can sharpen our wisdom. In the meditation, sitting still is like sharpening the knife. How sharp is your knife is? Go back to the real world, okay? When you face your enemy, anger immediately arises. That means defilement still inside. Defilement is not from the enemy, not from the people that you do not like. The defilements come from the inside. Then say, oh, I still have this anger. I still upset. I still have this dissatisfaction. That means the knife of the wisdom is not sharp yet. Come back, practice, and serve again. And also widely, okay, to go and build these virtuous bond with different peoples. This will help us to subdue the self barrier, the barrier of self. So before we learn, I only met friends with those same interests, similar background. But now we learn that it is because we have the self, okay? Because of the self-ego, I only met friends with certain people. But now we learn that everything have their own reasons, their causes to come together and difference. So only through interact with different people, then we learn how to be humble, how to be straightforward, how to be skillful means, okay? So empty of what? Empty of our bad temper, empty of our stubbornness, empty of our laziness, empty of the arrogance, and etc. This is how we can apply the wisdoms, okay? And this kind of self-transcendence, or we call it self-reflections, so most of the time we are very weak at this. So it's better to do this and practice this in the communities. In the communities, we have the supportive strengths and people will remind us, we have the teachers and friends together. All right, so the last I would like to share with you is these verses. It calls the mind delights in purity and liberation. This is called emptiness, okay? So purity is also another term for emptiness, actually. You might hear purity very often in Buddhism, but it also refers to the wisdom of emptiness. So in America, the culture here emphasizes a lot on personal freedom, okay? But you can see that personal freedom is what? Most of the time, the so-called freedom is follow or you're driven by your desires. And desires are edgy, those are bondages, tie us very tight. Okay, it's always burning inside. One day, if you can see all these desires and no longer follow them, and eventually desires cease, then that is the moment the mind really has experienced the purity and liberation, and you don't necessarily have to follow the desires anymore. That is the true liberation, and we call it the emptiness. All right. I might want to skip this and go to the last one. Okay. Before I end my talk here. So some of you, this is the verses that I always recited in the, oh, sorry. Can I share this? Okay, can you see my screen? Yes. This is the verses on pure conduct. Okay, it says that precepts purify body and speech, concentration purifies sensory desires, wisdom purifies views and understanding, and thus the three trainings gradually bring about purity. Greed is cleansed by the waters of samadhi, ill will is cleansed by the winds of compassionate vows, and delusion is cleansed by the fires of prajna. And then the nature of the mind will be revealed as pure. Okay. These verses actually is the calligraphy hang outside the corridor. You'll see in the Chinese. I used to recite these verses very often because it reminds us about the practice. Okay, the wisdom and the practice can be very profound, but it starts with our body, speech, and mind. That is the three highest training or the three trainings. So I think later on, Venerable Kōngyán and other teachers might announce to you that we will have the retreat at the end of this month, focus on the three trainings or the three highest training. So this is what it's about. Okay. All right. With that, I would like to conclude my speech today, the talk here. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay. If you have any other questions, we can discuss at the Buddhist house later on at the tea time or the discussion of the lunch. Okay. Thank you very much, and may you all be free from your greed and anger, anxieties, and ignorance, and may we all attain the ultimate peace and happiness. Thank you very much, all.